So as he said, we only have 15 minutes, so let's jump right in. Now, okay. So the objectives of my cases would be to recognize hypoglycemia and hyperglycemia patterns in patients with type 1 diabetes who fast during Ramadan, and try to apply a structural approach on how to adjust the basal dosing and the timing, the suhoor strategy, iftar strategy, and in between I'll review some updates and some evidence-based management strategies. Now, as mentioned, we wish that all our type 1 patients can be receiving technology. However, the fact is most of our patients with type 1 are on insulin, and when it comes to MDI, it ranges, depending where you are in the world, between 70 to 99% of patients with type 1 diabetes. And when it comes to MDI, compared to other types of insulin, there will be a talk after me on mixed type of insulin. They do seem to be, for patients with type 1, the more flexible and the ones associated with less rates of hypoglycemia, and therefore thought safer. And it has been shown also in Ramadan in a systematic review back in 2017 that compared to other forms of management, they seem to be associated with less hypoglycemia with fasting. We all know that patients with type 1 are not all the same, and within those patients on MDI, there are certain factors that should be taken into account in addressing whether or not they should fast, and things like having overall good control before Ramadan, being on intensive monitoring, being well prepared and educated, having access to care. All these factors contribute to the safety of fasting in our patients on MDI, and as mentioned many times during this conference, the two most important factors for safety of our patients when they fast are receiving proper education and being on intensive monitoring. So let's move on to our cases. So the first case I have, he's a 22-year-old fifth-year medical student who has had type 1 diabetes since the age of 10. He doesn't have any microvascular disease. He was on Glargine 100, 28 units at bedtime. This is his pre-Ramadan visit, about a month before Ramadan. He usually takes his Glargine around midnight. This is his bedtime, and he was on Aspart 14 units average, with meals adjusted roughly depending on how he sees, his meal content is. He, at that time, was not yet on CMG, so he was using SNBG 4 to 5 times a day, and his averages were around 150 to 160. He did have some symptoms suggestive of GERD, and he was complaining of post-meal hypos when he's not able to finish his meals. And he's not that active. Diet full of fast food. Examination had some lipohypertrophy, both arms. And he has been fasting since he was 12 years old. When he fasts, usually he takes his Glargine at 5 a.m. This is his own way of doing it. And his previous Ramadan experience, he had broken his fast like 4 to 5 days. So if we would apply, to this, of course, the older version of the risk classification, he would have about 7.5 score, so he should be in the category that is high risk and should not fast, but as most of our patients do, they insist on fasting. So what should we do now in regards to his management? If we review the recommendations, so it should be for patients who are well controlled with A1C of less than 7.5. The recommendation is a reduction in the basal by about 20 to 30%. And this is based on a number of studies that looked into that. And then for the timing, for type, in general, it's either at iftar or at bedtime or to whatever suits the patient. And for the prandial, when it comes to iftar, intensive ISR, and for suhoor time, then you can use the same ICR that you're using before Ramadan. And more importantly is that during Ramadan, this should be adjusted as it goes. It's not a fixed adjustment that you just start with. So let's go back to our patient. So for him, what we had done, since he insisted on fasting, is that we emphasized that you are a high risk. We continued with education. We put him on CGM, gave him all the rules about breaking the fast. We did recommend reducing his glargine as his A1C was 7.5 to 22 when Ramadan starts, and we recommended it to be taken a little bit earlier than 5 a.m., so at his usual bedtime. Emphasize proper counting. For fatty meals, we recommended that he adds a 50% of his initial dose within an hour after the iftar. And because of his gastritis symptoms, we did also recommend that he might consider doing 50-50 just in case he doesn't finish his meals. Now, he comes back during Ramadan. And as I said, he's a fifth-year medical student, so he's very, knowledgeable. And he was very upset that he had missed more days than usual. And he thought that it was our advice of giving him glargine at bedtime because he's used to taking it at 5 a.m. So this was what his thought process. So let's go through his CGM during the days that he broke his fast. So as you can see, he did go with our recommendation of reducing his glargine. By the time here, he was already on 20. You can see clearly that he is taking it at bedtime around between 10 and 12 night. And then he continued reducing, and he was still having issues. But when you look into the issues, so he's sleeping after Fajr, he wakes up and breaks his fast. And most of the time, the issue is early on. So it's not that much related to his basal. And not only that, you can see on one of the days, because he was high after sahur, he even took an extra correction. So he did have a lot of behavioral issues in relation to how he was dealing with sahur. It wasn't that much to do with the basal, although you could argue that the basal on top of an initial lower sugar to start with could cause the sugar to go down early. By that day, he had already reached about 45% reduction in his basal. And that day, he did have a better fasting outcome. So overall, what I would take from this patient, this patient is a high-risk patient to start with. In his case, it was more of the glargine dose rather than the time. And he did have a lot of behavioral issues. So I think this is the message here is discussing all these issues with patient and individualizing it as part of the education process. And he did need proper ICR estimation, a lot of discussion in regards to his meal choices. Now, one thing that I want to also point out is that in regards to the timing of the hypoglycemia that we just saw in this patient, it's not just unique to him, and we've seen it in many studies, and especially in the study that compared Saudi Arabia to other countries. You can see that the morning or post-sahur timing for Saudi is a common time of having hypoglycemia, less actually than the pre-iftar time, indicating more of the sahur meal issue being a more issue in these patients compared to the basal issue. So just before we move on to the other case, what does the evidence show? Is there really a best time to give basal, or is there a better basal? And we've tried to answer that question. When we did a randomized trial comparing early giving glargine versus later giving glargine, so at iftar versus at midnight, we didn't really see a major difference when it came to risk of hypoglycemia. So timing in those patients with type 1 of the glargine itself did not make a huge difference. We also compared glargine to Degludec, and while you see that by CGM, there was a trend to more hypoglycemia with glargine 100. However, again, it's happening early on. It's not the pre-iftar time. It's mainly here, as you can see, CGM detected. In this same study, there was no difference if it came to hard outcomes, like the number of days that they actually broke the fast was not different between Degludec and glargine. So I think to answer these two questions, I think the best time is what works in an individualized pattern for the patient. We don't have a strong evidence for a best universal time to give the basal. It's more of the dose reduction than the timing effect, and always a timing should match the sleep pattern, the work pattern, the sahur meal of individualized patient. And maybe Degludec may be better than glargine with minimally as shown in that study. So let's move to case number 2. This is a 20-year-old male. He has type 1 again since the age of 10. His last DKA was more than 3 years ago. No microvascular complications. His doses were glargine 45 that he takes again at midnight, aspart 25 with iftar, and 19 with sahur. He doesn't do carb counting. And he was complaining of hypoglycemias between 6 and 10 a.m. and hyperglycemias after iftar. He sleeps at 10 a.m. until 6 p.m. His iftar was 6:30 p.m., sahur at 3 a.m. Doesn't do much activity, examination unremarkable, and labs, as you can see, A1C 6.4, nothing else remarkable. So this was his CGM Libre report during Ramadan. You can see when it comes to GMI or overall target number-wise is good, but he was having major issues with hypoglycemia. And when you look into the daily reports, you could see it looks very strange, the way that it's accumulating around very early and post-sahur time. So we could ask, where is his sahur? You can't even see it there. And then he's low all over the day. And again, of course, we also have the issue of the hyperglycemia post-iftar. So again, this is another patient that is showing that he has issues, I think, with the timing, with the dosing of sahur. It seems like sometimes he might even miss sahur. And if we go for, because this is during Ramadan visit, so he does for sure need a lot of modifications to his dosing. And what we did was, again, emphasizing the risk, the need for the monitoring, the breaking fast rules. We reduced his sahur dose significantly and asked him to take it later, closer to dawn. We also reduced the basal and emphasized proper carbohydrate estimations and dose adjustments, and advised for earlier intake of the sahur dose, because this could help this prolonged hyperglycemia that we see with fatty males post-iftar. And of course, education and a lot of advice on the nutritional components of the food, both of sahur and iftar. So with that, he did come to a visit after that, and it seems that it did, help him a lot. You could see that we have, the hypos that used to be happening here have gone now. He's not perfectly controlled during the day, but at least he has managed to fast with minimal hypoglycemia compared to how he was in the beginning of Ramadan. Case number 3. So this is a 23-year-old male, again, type 1 diabetes since the age of 11, no microvascular complications, no DKA since the initial presentation, A1C 6.9, and he does have some hypos, especially related to exercise. Fasting since the age of 13, usually manages to fast most of the month, may break it 3 to 4 days, and usually that happens to him during the first week. Now, again, this is another medical student, and he had a question in relation to his sahur, because he notices that what happens is that when he takes his sahur and then he takes his, according to his ICR, he always has this post-sahur dip. And he was worried because when he delays it too much, this dip also always happens after Fajr and he needs to break his fast. So he was suggesting, as a medical student, why don't I take it a little bit earlier, so if it dips, I can manage it, and then I can take a snack before Fajr. And, the guidelines would tell you to continue the same, ICR for sahur and iftar, or those in fixed doses to reduce the sahur a bit, and to delay sahur as much as possible to the pre-dawn time. However, when he raised this question, we did look into if it was working for him, and it did look that it was kind of working. So he didn't get those hypos that were causing him to break his fast early morning. So he was taking his insulin, around like 2:30, and then taking a snack just before starting his fast. And for him, he felt it was working very well. So should he continue to do that? Or should we stick with the guidelines that say he has to take the sahur right before dawn with his dose? So this was a question that actually led us to do another study that we looked into the timing of sahur in relation. And we found that whether they do this, like delay suhoor as much as possible as per the guidelines, or take it a little bit earlier with a snack before Fajr. Both groups actually did the regimens did very well. It was a crossover design. Can I have my slides back, please? Okay. So I think, so for him, we could say that, what's happening? Okay, that, having suhoor not too late, just and adding with that a pre-dawn snack that has a lot of protein is a flexible alternative that we can offer patients who want to do that. It's not, it did not seem to affect or be non-inferior to delaying the suhoor to just before dawn. So this, I think, is the last case. She's a 20-year-old woman, type 1 diabetes since the age of 7. Again, her last DKA more than 7 years, has microalbuminuria, no retinopathy. She's on Degludec with an ICR of 1 to 13 and ISF of 50. And she did have, again, hypoglycemia prior to Ramadan, but again, one of those patients who wants to fast, A1C 7.6. Again, this patient, however, was, because she wants to fast so much, so she was, having a very generous suhoor, reducing her suhoor dose too much. She even, and she didn't, even with that, she was still having the dips. So she was clearly over-basalized with her dose. And then here, both our generous suhoor, reduction of dose, and she was also taking whey protein with suhoor. So you can, and not adjusting her insulin dose to cover that. So you can see this extreme hyper just post-suhoor, followed by the dip from over-basalization. And then we also have the hypers after Maghrib. So you can see those patients, unfortunately, don't have the perfect CGM like the ones we saw for the patients on technology. So what did we, for this patient, what did we learn, or what we saw? That suhoor component is as important as insulin dose in the education and the preparation for those patients to fast. For post-iftar hyperglycemia, one of the things that we always do is ask them to add 30% 1 hour after taking the meal, and to take the dose 20 minutes before the meal. So I'll just wrap up. So I think my conclusions is that it remains that education and intensive monitoring are the most essential. Those patients are always at risk. We still need to learn a lot about how to address these risks, the timing, how can we change insulin, how can we change the food component. The current algorithms that we rely on in the guidelines, we have to admit that they are not yet evidence-based as randomized trials. The actionable things that we do recommend and continue to recommend is adjusting the basal by a reduction of 20-30%. Timing remains individualized. Suhoor, we should avoid too early, and we should look into the need for either relaxing the ISR, maybe avoid it to be immediately before dawn. Iftar dose should be given to 15-20 minutes before, and a 30-minute booster after for fatty meals. And it's very important to discuss meal composition with our patients. One more slide, please. And I think the gaps that I would we should address in the future is hyperglycemia after iftar. Maybe the use of augmenting therapy like GLP and SGLT2 in patients with type 1 can mitigate some of these issues, but we do need Ramadan trials for that, and CGM guided dosing should become a standard of care for those patients. And with that, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Amoli. As you can see,